Hey there, welcome to the Insight Cafe. I'm your host, Nikon, and today, all the way from the UK, I got my friend, my brother, Dubem Menakaya. Hey, Dubem, how's it going?
Yeah, well, what's happening, bro?
So, you and me have known each other for a while. We've never met in person yet, but you've really inspired me with your insights and the things you share in your communities about the principles behind the human experience and leadership and entrepreneurship. And I said, you know what? I got to get this guy on this podcast. And I know today you're going to be sharing some of your insights about the things you talk about. But before you do that, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and what you're up to.
Thank you. Again, appreciate it. Appreciate being here, and do you know what I mean? Likewise, man. Like it's a beautiful thing in this community of transformative coaches and just principals, practitioners in general, supporting each other. And anyway, you asked me a question, so let me actually answer the question. You asked me. My name is Dubem Menakaya. I live in Grays, Essex, just outside London, and one of my art forms is as a transformative coach, working one to one with people to spark insights and help them see, the freshness that they already have in life and see new perspectives on situations because new perspectives leads to new actions effortlessly. That's my little spin, Describing myself is always a challenge, but I say coaching is one of my art forms because that's what I found, like just like you got singers who act, they also dance, and they're also entrepreneurs, everything is an art form. Everything is connecting with that energy, with that feeling, with that passion, and then, having that be experienced in the world and have people connect to it. So, I would broadly consider myself as an artist, with coaching being one of my art forms, working one to one with people and in groups. But I've got so many things that I want to create as well. So, I just love possibility. I love connection, and being able to enjoy these conversations and enjoy experiences with people, and to be a part of the change, in the world, in connecting with love and doing positive, progressive things in the world, and so I mean supporting and helping people and being inspired by people who are doing likewise.
I'm so happy I recorded that. I'm totally taking parts of that for myself. Your art is inspiring my art, brother. All right. So, you know what? I'm already inspired. This is a great podcast already. So, I want to dive in because I know there's so much more to what you said. And I want this podcast to be a space for you to express your art. So, there are four, is because before we got on this podcast, there you said you wanted to talk about four things. So I'm going to share them real quick. There's the freshness of life, there's simplicity, there's new rules of living beyond concepts, and there's a new way of looking at leadership and entrepreneurship. So the first one, hit me. What do you mean by the freshness of life? What does that mean for people? What are the implications of seeing that?
I think what comes to mind is like, I've a I have a background in addiction. I think everybody does, but like particularly I went into 12-step recovery. Like I went through a lot of dark moments with addiction, and the thing that I've discovered about addiction, and many people have, is that addiction is actually very boring. In that, like, it's very repetitive in the type of thinking, that you have. It's like, oh, I want to do this thing, like, I should stop smoking weed. I know it's not good for me, but then I end up doing it again and I end up feeling really bad about it. And then, time passes, things get a little clearer, and I end up doing it again. But it's just like a cycle, It's like I heard someone in the principles community, I don't know if it was Sid or someone says like trapped. You're trapped on a level of consciousness, and the thinking is all around that. So I've used the example of addiction, but you can use the example about any situation in life. Oh, should I stay with my girlfriend or should we break up? Should I stay in this job or should I leave it? Like that type of A, B type of thinking where it's very binary, like one is good and one is bad. And the freshness is like, oh, actually, it doesn't have to be that way. Like there's a new possibility. There's something about this that I actually didn't see that was right in front of my face like the whole time, that's always actually available. Like there is a fresh, and I've got a book, a working audio book, called The Fresh Perspective. Like there's a fresh perspective on any situation in life, in any moment, at any time. And actually that fresh perspective isn't that itself isn't even, oh, I have to go find this fresh perspective. It's like, no, you just drop into the natural love that you are, right? You connect with that grace. You drop into that feeling of, do you know what I mean? Unconditional love, and then that fresh understanding just comes with that, right? You could say gratitude as well, right? Like you just the more you let go, the more you're just grateful and appreciative you are. You feel into that, like the knowing kind of what to do comes with that. It's like it's like a package deal. you know so so yeah, that's kind of what I mean with the freshness, trying to put words onto it anyway.
What I'm curious now. I wonder if you have any real life examples of someone getting in touch with that space and what were the results. Because what came to me is when you're sharing that to me, it's like, oh, he's talking about insight. That's what it came through my head. Like when I get an insight, the thing I'm looking at just looks very new. So if I may share, like in
Mm,
terms of entrepreneurship, like I have a martial arts business and we have 10 branches across the country. We have a lot of staff, and coaching is one of my art forms. And I'm like, how do I be present in both these businesses that I love so much, that are both my art forms? And the insight was, oh, it's not all on me. I don't need to get better at I don't need to get better at productivity. I need to get better at building people up to replace me, because
mm,
my art form is a vehicle for other people to express more of their art too. And that's what looked fresh to me. I was like, oh wow, I didn't know you could do that. Like they never taught me that in business school. But because I had the space for something new to come through, it was like it was no longer the binary option. Like, oh, just get better at productivity so you can do both better. It's no, there's something way better on offer here of growing people in your business to become leaders. I'm
mm.
gonna throw the ball back to you.
Yeah, I mean, the one that was occurring to me. There are so many,
Mm,
like it's always running, but like the one that's occurring to me very recently is around a leadership program that
mm,
that that I'm creating, and like I've gone full time, as it were, with the coaching, like 6 months or so, and I kind of had it as like, I need to make money before I kind of do the big thing. I need to kind of establish the foundation. I can't do the big thing yet because I'm not ready, type of thing. Um, and the insight or the freshness was like, actually, I had a coaching session with Stephanie. I want to shout her out because she's dope, man. Stephanie Benedetto. Um, and it was just kind of in there. I was like, I just wanted to ask, what's the direction of my business and whatever, whatever. And I just started talking about like this program, like this leadership program of bringing people together to kind of create from their heart. People have an understanding, some sort of knowing about what they want to do in the world, but doing it like in a group. And we're gonna like take action as a group and step out into. And I was talking about it. It was like, oh no, like no, that's the thing. You that's where the that's where the energy is, like that's where it is. And actually, paradoxically, the more you try and avoid that, or you try and do something else as a means to get there, that's not gonna work because the energy is not, just the energy is not behind it. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like, for
so
me, it was just like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
just go, go where the energy is, because actually going where the energy is, like that's gonna build such momentum. That's gonna sort everything out for you. Like you're gonna be in the discovery. Like you're gonna know what to do in
All
terms
right.
of the next step. You know.
So
Um.
let me throw the ball back to me.
Yeah.
All
Go. Go.
right,
Back.
so bam. So what I heard in that was, in what you're sharing is, we get trapped in our own thinking of A or B, this or that, and we in our very limited thinking, we think the world looks a certain way, and based on the way the world looks to us in our business, in our lives, in our relationships, we come up with like very so few options. And what you're saying is the freshness of life is outside of that. It's when we put
mm,
that down and we get a fresh perspective or we get insight. And from your story and how this insight impacted you and your business, an insight you seem to have was, oh, I can just follow the energy where it's going. And it
mm,
doesn't matter. Then the energy doesn't care if you're ready or you're not, or you're just started. That this is where the energy is going, and you got to go with it. Right, right.
yeah.
Is that did I
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's why you're a great, artist in this thing, you know what I mean? Yeah, you summed it up, man. Like,
Cool.
because and there was another kind of insight that I've been
Mm,
feeling into, around like love
mm,
and love guiding you to what is beneficial for everybody and
mm,
kind of aligned with the freshness as well, right? Like it's not just it's not just a benefit for you, it's actually a benefit for everybody.
mm,
That's where you'll be guided to. And if something is A or B, like it might be good for me, but I feel like it's going to be bad for everybody, or it might be bad for me
mm,
but good for everybody. Like I either your thinking about the choice
mm,
is unaligned, for lack of a better term, or like there's more choices than you're able to see in that moment. Because I just do believe like that it is guiding you towards something which is beneficial for everybody. And you might not know that. It doesn't mean like, yep, this choice, this, that, yep, tick, 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 that's good.
yeah.
No, you might not know that like in the moment, but I don't know. There's just like a feeling behind it, like a
Mm,
feeling of that's where the freshness comes in. I just need to feel the freshness. That's all
mm,
I don't need to like logically understand that this is gonna lead. Oh yeah, this is the thing that's gonna lead to X, Y, and Z. I just need to feel in any moment and
mm,
if I don't feel it as well, that's a beautiful indicator. That's why
mm,
the staleness, for lack of a better term, is a wonderful indicator. Like it's a wonderful
mm,
part of the system. Because if I'm feeling the staleness, then I know I'm just not in the freshness. The freshness is there,
yeah.
like I'm just not in it. So it's a
Yeah.
great indicator to look again, to think
Yeah.
again, to see again.
Mm,
Not that the stale thinking becomes my permanent truth. It
mm.
just means it's something I'm not seeing, and that's okay. You know.
I hear you. Mm. I'm gonna sit with that one for a minute. um, mm. I like it. So to me, that's really being really in tune with your freshness indicator. Like, how fresh does this feel? Am I being stuck in this old bullshit thinking, or is this the fresh meter is like, damn, this is fresh? Like, um, I like what you're saying. I was listening to a podcast by Lad Bible, and it was Jenny Radcliffe, and she's a professional burglar and con artist, and people hire her to break into banks and to businesses and stuff, and she tests their security. And normally you would think something like that is like kind of Mission Impossible style, and there's an element to that, but she said a big element of it is psychology and how she'll break into security psychology by getting them to open doors for her or to let her into places. And she said something really cool that's probably going to stay with me for a very long time. She said that when someone's trying to con you, what they do is they'll try and get you in really high or really low emotional states, and then they'll give you an out. And that out is like, oh, emergency happen, you should only click the link, wire me some money. And he said that when people are in very high or very low emotional states of mind, their decision making is impaired. And I was like, whoa. So what I love about what you said is, to me, it relates to that, in that if you're not in tune with this freshness and this inner guidance, you can be easily swayed by your emotional states of mind. Like either
Mm,
super like, and she said like somebody could be really, really excited and you get them to like do all sorts of stuff for you, because they're really excited, or they're really low and you give them an out. And I was like, wow, that's so, so powerful.
mm.
And I'm going to put a pin on this topic for now because I'm so excited about these other topics. So the next one I'd love for you to talk about is simplicity, because more and more that's becoming one of my favorite things. So I'm going to throw the ball back to you, Dubem. What do you see about what's fresh about simplicity for you?
It's funny because it does actually follow on in a
It
way,
does,
right?
right?
Because what I was just reflecting on was on what you said is
Mm,
there's a solidity, right,
mm,
when you know yourself,
oh,
when you
mm,
can look within, you know, when you it's not even trust yourself, it's actually just knowing that that trust is inbuilt. I think everybody everybody knows this, everybody can relate to this, everybody has experienced, they, moments in their life where they absolutely knew what to do. They knew that they wanted to marry this person. They knew that they wanted to, go to this university. They knew they wanted to start this business, like whatever it was. Like there's, and not even just one. There's multiple, many, many, many moments of that, right? And the understanding that we work from, as we know, as just the truth, that knowing is always present, right? That this thing I heard about common sense, oh, that's just common sense, right? And common sense is a sense that is common to everybody. Um, so that sense, that's the simplicity, like, and what and what what the game is, I see it anyway, is just me, resting more in that knowing, because I just really do believe that we do know what to do. Um, at all times. It's just there's a lot of thinking around it, and there's a misunderstanding around that thinking, which gets in the way. But it's at the heart of the simplicity. I was listening to this Sydney Banks videos. I always remember this line. And he said, these three principles. Obviously, we talk about the three principles, so we're not going to get to the specifics of that. But this is the whole point: is the principles is the guiding system. He said, if you leave these principles alone, they will guide you through life. If you leave them untouched, they will guide you through life. Right. So that's the heart simplicity for me, that there is a guidance system. And if and it also indicates when you're off road, as it were, right? That's inbuilt too, when you're off road to come back to road. And that's part of the journey as well. Like, you're gonna go off road. I know I'm rumbling, but this is another thing that always stick with me. I used to play football, and one of my football coaches at the time, he'd worked with, Premier League players and stuff, and he said, even the best football player in the world, right, is only gonna play kind of at their best like 7 out of 10 matches, right? So, Lionel Messi, we're recording this, just after the World Cup, like Lionel Messi, the best player in the world, with my opinion, you know what I'm saying? But one of the greatest anyway, everyone can agree with that. He's only going to be at his best like 7 out of 10 matches, guaranteed. So there's definitely going to be 3 games out of 10 where he's not going to be at his best, right? So what does that have to do with simplicity? Well, low moods and negative thinking or whatever is going to be present. Like, that's just life. It's just, you know what I mean? That's just part of it's part of the system. But it's like there is underneath, within that, there is guidance. The guidance is always present. The simplicity is always present. What to do? It's like, just go to sleep or whatever, do nothing or whatever, or do something and and cut yourself some slack. That's the simplicity as well. Half of the a lot of the problems I've had in my life, I've created in my life, with all due kindness to myself, is because I've beat myself up about something that I've done in the past, right? But the simplicity, we know that doesn't have anything to do with what's happening in the moment, right? But that's yeah. Something so simple. I've talked quite a bit about it, but I think people can gauge within that,
Throw the ball back. Throw the ball back this way.
Oh, sorry, go.
All
Backhand
right.
cross court.
Love it. I'm gonna tell a story comes to mind. I think a month, um, 2 months ago, I was in South Korea for a Taekwondo intensive training for masters. And because I do Taekwondo and I'm doing it for 20 years, I'm fifth dan, so it's like master level. So we went to this Korea for this master level training, and they introduced us to all these really cool people like grandmasters and like different facets of Taekwondo. There was like dancing, there was patterns, there was self-defense, and there was combat, like sports combat. And they brought in Huang Kyung-seung, and she's double Olympic gold medalist, double world champion. And we had a lot of questions for her because she's like a Taekwondo legend, right? We're like, oh, asking all these like really complicated questions, and like, what do you do this for the timing? What's more important, speed, strength, or power? And to my surprise, her answers were very short and very simple. And I was like, huh. So I had an insight. I had a freshness moment. And I was like, it really does look that simple to her. It's not that complicated to her. And that's why she's so great at it. And I realized because to us, it still looked complicated. This moves or this
Mm,
techniques, the timing, the rhythm, but to her, it looked very
mm,
simple. She's like, you just do this.
mm.
And she had the credibility to back it up. It's like, which like she's the one in the room saying like just 2 Olympic gold medals and 2 world championships. So like, and then I saw that, and I love what you said about simplicity as a guidance system. And I think that's coming up a lot in our conversation today. And what I see is for me now, the more complicated things get, to me, I've noticed that the further away I'm getting from the answer. The more simple
Mm,
things get,
mhm.
I know like, okay, we're going in the right direction. Like the more simple this looks to us, that's it. And then I can't tell you how powerful that is just for my own business and entrepreneurship. Like I had a big um team meeting. I'm gonna throw the ball back. I know you heard something. Just heard
Now
something. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
messing with this. I'm messing with
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't miss. I don't miss. so, so in this meet, I'm gonna throw this ball back real quick. So in these business meetings I'm having with my team is preparing for the new year, right? I notice everything just getting more and more simple, and the more simple it gets, the cleaner it feels, the more on point we feel, the less conflict we have, the more on point we have. And I was like, yeah, this feels good. Like, all right, this feels good. All right, let's go. Whereas 2, 3 years ago, when I didn't know this understanding, things were just really complicated. Like it was just harder. Things weren't in flow, but now it's just simple. So I'm gonna throw the ball back because I know you heard something.
Thank you for sharing that what you said about the simplicity as an indicator. Like I
Mm,
really felt that, because I think that's been it's been a challenge, for me in life is
yeah,
it's kind of like, oh really? No, it can be this simple. Like I feel like I've got to add more on top of it. And just what you said, well, that's just the level of seeing, right? And that's okay, and that lady, the double
Olympian.
Olympic gold
Yeah.
Olympian, that she sees it that way. And so that's just so what comes out of her mouth is aligned with that. It just makes total sense. Um, and that's cool. That's really cool. Um, that's the kindness as well, I think, for people. Like there's so many areas, right? That's what's so cool about human beings. Like have specialists. We all have specialist areas of simplicity, and we have specialist areas of perceived complexity,
Oh, it's
right?
quotable. I'm happy we recorded that.
Sorry.
My man don't miss. My man don't miss.
Gotta leave that one there. You like that one? We'll throw that back.
Yeah. Mm. You know what's interesting? Since we started this conversation or being in this inside out conversation, I've stopped asking people I admire how they do things and I started asking them how they see things because I really want to
Mm,
see what it looks like to them. I'm like, explain this simplicity. Why does this look so simple to you? And
mm,
to my surprise, it takes them back because so many people are used to asking them, how do you do this? How do you do that? And few people ask them, like, how does this look like to you? And which
mm.
brings us to our next
I might,
point.
we
Yeah, our
talk
next,
about
yeah, yeah, yeah.
artists, inspiring artists. I'm like, I might take that and I might go start interview series.
Our next thing is no rules and living beyond concepts. And I'm gonna throw well before I throw the ball back, I something came to mind for me when because I was reading as you were sharing this, you sent this to me before and I was thinking about it is I think most of my entrepreneur career, I've always trying to live within concepts because I didn't think I was smart enough to do it on my own. So like how to's and how to marketing, how to be a boss, how to be a leader, blah blah blah
Mm,
blah. And
mm,
it always kind of felt like okay, just obey, just do what they because they're more successful than you. Just follow these concepts. And I had a really hard time, and business didn't really do that well for many years And then it came, you know what? A lady said this to me one time, said, Nikon, and because she helps entrepreneurs develop systems to grow and scale their businesses. And she said something to me that'll stay with me. Shout out to Manisha. She said to me, Nikon, everybody has their own way of doing things. Everybody has natural systems that they build around them to make things work. And what I do is I go in and I shine light on those things and I make those things work for them even more. And I was like,
Hmm.
you could do that? Like, that's a thing? He's like, yeah. And I've started to notice more and more, like what are the natural systems that I have working for me that are totally beyond concept, and they're totally beyond what you should do in business and what you shouldn't. And I've noticed things for myself and my clients just work out way better. And
Hmm.
now, and how this has impacted me as a coach is I'm asking people like, how do you naturally do this? How does this naturally work for you? And that's what
Hmm.
this I guess subtitle means to me: no rules and living beyond concepts. So I'm going to throw the ball back to you over the
Such,
court.
such a great. Oh, I'm just learning so much. I'm just connecting with what you're sharing, and I love it. I love it. That's where that's pretty much what it means to me. I think it's very similar, right?
Mm,
Like that my my willingness to learn, is a gift and it's a curse, right? From the way that I make it to be, because yes, I love reading books, but then I'm looking to go to the book, I'm looking to go to a book, or I'm looking to go to somebody else. It's like I put my power out there. You know what I mean? It's like giving your power away before you've even used it, type of thing. So it's not to say that books don't play a part and books are not part of my system, or learning from other people's not part of my system, but like as a go-to move, right? Then it's, do you see what I mean? That then you're playing within someone else's rules, and someone that what someone else has learned, what's worked for someone else, and there may be some overlaps there, but not as a go-to, and that's what it means for me. Like I feel like I remember the Artist Way. This is one of my like most inspirational like quotes actually. Like the Artist Way, book by Julia Cameron. You know, ironic. There you go. 12 week. 12 week.
I love
It's
it. I love it. Yeah.
it's more of a course though, to be fair. It's like
Yeah.
12 weeks and you do these
Yeah.
different exercises, high creativity. But it's literally like the first line in the book. It's like, the art makes the market. The market doesn't make the art.
Mm. Oh, that hit
And
home.
and there's a perception with rules. It's like, oh, let's look at the parameters of what's going on and let me try and fit in. Like coaching, we know this, like as coaches, there's so many, like, this is how you get clients and this is how you can get high paying clients and this is blah, blah, blah. And so many people will try and, obviously sell you coaching services because, get clients. That's cool. There's nothing obviously wrong with that. And obviously that works for very many people. But the problem is when people make it out, or when I make it out like, oh, that's the only way I can follow, rather than I'm going to experiment with that. I might experiment with following somebody else's way, and I'm going to find certain stuff that works and find stuff that doesn't, and also I'm going to find out new things. I'm going to invent new things of doing right within those parameters, like, yeah, that's kind of what it means for me. It's like working with work. It's actually working with everything. It's not being a complete contrarian, which I can fall into. Like, oh, I'm just gonna like not do anything and not do anything anybody else says, and right. But it's also like I'm not just gonna, sorry, I'm not gonna just subsume myself to. I'm just gonna follow what everybody else is doing. I feel like that is an essence. No rules is the essence of harmony, is the essence of
Mm.
creation. Like I'm going to learn from everything, but ultimately I'm going to trust my own knowing, my own guidance, and see what comes up and be willing to just try things out and experiment and put things out there, you know, because you
Mm.
never know what's ultimately you never know what's actually going to land, in life.
Yeah. What occurred to me when you were sharing is, because I had that insight too about, well, if I have all this inner wisdom, I don't need any books, I don't need nothing. I'm just gonna go at it cold. And then and then and then I reflected and I realized all the right books have come to me at the right time in my life. And I was like, well, hold up, hold up. What if, what if, wisdom is guiding me to these different books to tell me the right thing at the right time. Because there's certain books I just like, nope, nope. But like for example, picking
Mm,
up the Inside Out Revolution by our mutual mentor and teacher, Michael Neal. Like that book
mm,
changed my life. And I'm really
mm,
happy I read that book. But now as I read how-to books, the come from is different from me. I'm not reading it because I'm powerless. I'm reading it because I am full and I'm ready
mm,
to be inspired. Like I'm coming from a
mm,
fullness, not from a lack. And I'm like,
mm,
wow, like this is inspiring. And that's what occurs to me about that, about
mm.
no rules and living beyond concepts to me is realizing there's so much, there's a world beyond rules and there's a world beyond concepts. Mm,
Oh, what you said is just what occurred to me is around like the cooperating components,
mm,
right? Like what are the things brought together which bring that that idea or whatever it is to life, right? And as much as people are part of it, but books are part of it, and courses are part of it. But like you said, they're things that you're drawn to, or they're drawn to you. Like there's kind of like an eminent feeling in there, and then there's some things which you're like, no, it's not relevant for me to read this, or it's not right. But there's some people, there's some opportunities that just you're like, yeah, like it's just clear. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, that's the thing.
yeah. And I'd like to slide into our next point or idea we want to talk
Yes,
about is a new way of looking at leadership and entrepreneurship. I'm gonna throw the
yes,
ball back to you. What do you see
yes.
about that? What's
All
looking
right, I'm gonna
fresh?
take that. I'm gonna do a couple head
Yeah,
ups,
yeah.
kick ups. There was- Yeah, what's special about that? I mean, it's something that I think, and we was talking about a bit before the call. I think a lot of the entrepreneurship and leadership conversation, what I've seen as well from my own experience, is very much about actions. It's about doing. You know, it's like focus around behavior. And if something's not going well, then you have to change your behavior. You have to change your actions. Um, Whereas, the transformative perspective, what's fresh for me is looking at this intuition, actually leading with the intuition, leading with the energy, um, and feeling into that. I think everyone has an awareness of, the power of passion, the power of enthusiasm, to get results, to inspire teams, right? Like everyone is totally on board with that. But I feel like actually, let me reframe it. What's fresh about that is like, well, what if we led with that conversation? What if we actually, like we were saying, we go upstream, right? Instead of, if we say the actions and behaviors are downstream, they're in the form. If we go upstream to the form, we look into the energy, to the source of insight, to the source of inspiration, right? We look to, and I'm going to take this directly from Sid because I listened to it this morning and it really landed with me. We look to what's creating, not what's being created. So, so
Hit me that
that's.
with hit me that again.
I mean, I said,
I like
rewind
it.
every time.
Hit me again,
Like,
brother.
yeah. If we look to what's creating, the energy that's creating, not what's being created and trying to change and operate there.
Mm,
Look upstream, right? That for me is a whole different way of movement because upstream is innate mental health, right? It's a knowing that we're always well. Upstream is infinite possibilities, infinite ideas, right? Upstream is connection, like inbuilt connection, inbuilt love and unity. Like that's all upstream
mm,
in a formless way. Obviously, I'm putting words to it, but that's the essence. So if we go up there and we come from that place, the downstream is just going to be so much different, right? Like if we're in a room and we're talking about working on a business or starting a new idea, well, instead of talking about those ideas, well, let's go upstream and let's just connect. Let's just drop into that connection, like as people. Let's feel into each other. Like, what do we care about? Like, what's our desires? What do we enjoy doing, right? And then we drop into that feeling, and then we have the conversation about what we're working, what we're creating, it serves to speak, and it's just common sense that the conversation is going to be different.
Mm,
Because we're operating on a different level of consciousness. So the output, it serves to speak, is going to be a totally different output than if we just jump into the conversation at the level of problem solution, right? If we're jumping into the conversation at the level of, well, how do we solve this, rather than jumping into it from or going upstream and feeling and dropping into that feeling and then seeing what comes out. It just serves to speak to be totally different. So for me, it's like I'm curious to see this application, in leadership, in bringing ideas into the world. Um, particularly for people who have a kind of calling that they want to help people and they want to make a difference in the world, but they're not kind of sure how to start or where to start, or they're a bit stuck, and bringing a group of people together to do that and to explore, from that place. So.
mm, mm. What occurs to me is I'm doing working on a strategy project, and one of the source materials is Good to Great by Jim Collins, and a
Mm,
big part of that is leadership and level 5 leadership, and like he describes level 5 leaders as humble, as they do it for the greater good. As that I'm reading the stories for the book, it's interesting because what he did was he took all the companies that went from good to great, and he analyzed their leaders and what they did. And what's occurring to me as I'm reading this, I'm realizing that all the leaders, quote unquote, that did really good, they weren't so concerned about leadership. They were just doing what they were doing. But people on the outside were like, oh, whatever that guy's doing, leadership. But like people like Abraham Lincoln, which is my favorite leader, he was just doing what made sense to him with a very,
mm,
but he was very connected and grounded to source, to me. And and it's true, right? Because I think like every year there's a new model of leadership to follow, to add on, to make better. But people who are out there doing great things, they're coming from upstream. They're not trying to be a leader. They're coming from this space where there's insights and there's freshness and solutions look obvious to them. It's like, oh, this. And I
mm.
feel like um yeah, that's what it looks like to me. Leadership looks, it's almost like the word for to me is dissolving. Like there's less concept around leadership. It just looks like being and doing the best you can with what you have moment to moment. And isn't that interesting though, that like you become a better leader by stop trying to be a leader, and you be human. You like be more human. Isn't that funny? And like for me, I share a real life example. I got two case studies. I coached a she was a okay, this is my favorite story. This one lady, she was from the UK actually, and she's in Thailand. And she came to me and she said, I want to hire a business coach. And I'm like, why? It's like, well, I have this vegan banana bread business and I want to grow it. And I said, all right, cool. Like she's been doing it for a couple of years. She's delivering and she has a name and she wants to take it to the next level. I'm like, well, you're great. And she leans over and she says to me, says, well, my big secret is I don't really feel like I know what I'm doing about business because I'm a trained actress. I never went to business school. And I looked at her and I said, oh, that's great. She's like, what do you mean that's great? That's a bad thing because I need to go to business school. And I said to her, no, because I don't need to unteach. You don't need to unlearn everything. You can come at everything fresh and do it your own way. And
Mm,
she kind of looked at me and she's like, what do you mean I can do it my own way? And I gave her in a roundabout way, and through that conversation, she gave herself permission. I put it on the table. She gave herself permission to approach leadership, to approach business, entrepreneurship, the way that made sense to her and the way that made sense to her heart. Fast forward a couple of years later, she opened a cafe at a major mall in the heart of Bangkok. She's traveling on the world. She's now a business coach, by the way, and she has a successful bakery, and her staff love her, and she's growing them, and it's truly a remarkable story.
wow.
And that came from her coming from upstream. And I think my role and your role in that situation would be to simply remind this person of that spark.
Mm.
And then in the second case study, I think it would be my own. Like I have growing a taekwondo business for 10 years and just trying things and making mistakes for 10 years. And I thought about it. I've had some of the staff have been with me like 5 or 6 years, Dubem, some of them 7. And they've
Mm.
grown from staff members to managers to partners. And someone might say, oh, that's some great leadership you're doing. And to me, it doesn't look like leadership. I'm just taking it a day at a time. And someone from the outside might say, oh, you're doing this. And I'm like, to me, it doesn't look like that. And that's what looks fresh to me is when you're in the hot seat and you're actually doing it. It it's far more impactful for me to come from freshness than it is to like, okay, so the book says do A, B, C, D's. All right, guys, we're gonna apply this. Yeah.
I
I'm gonna
feel
throw
like
the yeah.
that just links like yeah, everything, man. Like just the simplicity,
Mm,
is actually at the heart of it, and that knowing when you're in that, I don't want to even make it sound like it's somewhere you have to get to. Like
mm.
when you're just in the natural flow, which is always present, things that just it just makes sense. It just makes sense, and when things make sense and you enjoy them, that you just keep doing them. That's pretty much it. Like
Yeah, right. It doesn't look that complex. I mean, there are times when
oh
it
yeah.
when experience comes and it meets my flow and I'm really engaging and there are times when it really does just try and stuff. And to me, that's what looks fresh about leadership and entrepreneurship. Like I've stopped trying to be a leader and I've stopped trying to be an entrepreneur. And I'm
Hmm.
more interested in what you were saying about I'm more interested in coming from that space upstream, just seeing what happens.
That's fresh, bro.
It's
That's fresh.
fresh. It's fresh. I
That's
don't
fresh.
miss. I don't miss.
I'm saying. But you 5 for 5 today, or 6 for 6
5-5. You. Well, I gotta
from
thank you.
deep.
Deep. Um. So, do you have? I'm gonna throw the ball back. Do you have anything that you wanted to add or to that?
No, no, no. Like that's dope, man. That's dope. That's something I'm gonna, take on board
Mm,
to just reflect on. Do you know what I
mm,
mean? Yeah, for what I'm doing, and yeah, I think yeah.
cool. All right. Well, we're coming to the end. I want to respect your time. So I'm gonna ask before we get to the end. I'm gonna ask you this question. And I ask everybody this question. It's if you were to give a gift to the world, to the people listening, what would that gift be?
Oh, the thing that actually just keep come to mind is just be yourself. Like
Mm-hmm.
just the permission for people to just be their unique flavor of God.
Oh,
I like that.
yeah,
Michael Neal said that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So like, because we all are of the same energy, but
Yeah.
and we all have a unique flavor of that energy,
Mm,
and that is what's of value. So just yeah, just say people to just be that as you already do in many areas of your life, but just permission to do that in other areas, not
mm.
just certain spaces. So
Thanks for sharing your flavor today.
you're
All
welcome. You too.
right. So what's next for Dubem Menakaya?
What's next, man? Is this leadership program? It's gonna launch in February. It's gonna be 4 months. It's gonna be online. Like I'm working out obviously the logistics. Everything is coming to me. It's all being created. Um, and I feel like, yo, this is gonna be groundbreaking. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm very excited to experiment. You know what I mean? And to play it out. Forget any actually expectations. Like, I'm just excited to experiment with that and with people and bringing people together and doing it in a community. And then just continue to look in this area around leadership and my own art. So I'm for what's coming through me in terms of writing, in terms of sharing. I've got audio book, A Fresh Perspective. It's in the studio and being mixed down, so that'll be released so early next year. And that's it, man. Like it's a wild journey of transformative coaching as well, man. One-to-one clients, anyone who comes my way, continuing to be a professional man of service, professional sharer of my unique flavor in whatever format that comes out. Um, Yeah.
Beautiful. Um, last thing I want to say that one of the things I really admire and respect about you is because you say it and you do it and you bring it. We talked a lot about the freshness of life, and you bring such a fresh energy to every conversation we've been in. And I so appreciate that about you, and I respect you for it, and I admire you for it. And I'm so grateful I get to call you a friend, brother, colleague, and I just know you're gonna do great things.
Oh, well, thanks. Hit me with that one there, man. I was coming for that. Nah, nah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I say you're the man, it's this like I said, mutual appreciation
Yeah.
society, that because you're the
Yeah.
man, like, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
What you do, I told you, you're someone that as a colleague, as a brother in the game,
Mm.
I look up to, do you know what I'm saying? I'm inspired by the difference that you're making and what you've allowed to come through you and the people you connected and, do you know what I'm saying, caring, supportive. You know what I mean that you are, so it made me feel like, yo, I'm with the Warriors, man. Like
Yes,
I'm
you
like, yo, I'm
are.
with the G's now, yeah. Man, it's stamped like out here. Like I've been called to the fellowship, like yeah.
More power to you. All right, I'm gonna stop recording. I'll see you later. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Bye bye.
All right, take care, guys.